Okay, and then we can start the YouTube as well. So Chrissy, I think you need to mute on Zoom. Great. Okay, so we're going to give it about a minute, and we're going to start. And okay, so we're going to start on time. So it's about a minute two. I'm going to start with just introducing myself for a second, and I'll just stop the share so you can see me. So welcome everyone. I'm Tal Tsfany, and I'm the President and CEO of the Ayn Rand Institute. And I'm delighted to do a first webinar around a talk that I've been giving in many places around the world now. And the response has convinced me to try and share it with a wider audience. So this is why I decided to do this webinar. So I'm excited about that. I'm doing it from my house in Atlanta, Georgia. This is kind of the office. So hope you enjoy the background here. I'm going to start with asking a question. If you have seen my talk, because I just want to see how many people that are participating have watched my talk before. So you should see a poll just asking if you've heard my talk before, so I'll know how much to repeat or not repeat. So let's see. Okay, growing, growing, growing. Okay, so we got 27 responses. Wow, about 50-50. So let me share the poll. You can see the results here. So 45%, 13 people out of the 29 that answered have seen it, and 55 have not. So I'll try to do something in the middle, like, you know, maybe repeat some of the messages you've seen before, but I'll try to take it from a different angle. So, okay, so I'll start. Let me share my presentation and kick it off. Okay, so assuming that you can see my presentation, by the way, feel free to raise your hand if you have something burning to say, or you have a question that cannot wait. I'm okay to stop and answer from time to time. So my talk is called Pursuit of Happiness Powered by Philosophy. And I have to say, this is my version of it. This is how I experienced all of it. You know, it's only me that can vouch for how valid this, you know, viewpoint and process that I'm going to talk about is. But it's worked wonders for me. It made me a much happier person, a more fulfilled person, much more aware of what I love about life, and experiencing life in my mind in a much higher level. So my intention here is to really share with you what I've learned along the years of thinking about and trying to practice philosophy, trying to explain where that philosophy comes from, what it is about. It's not going to be an overview of the full objectivist philosophy, but the key takeaways. So again, and feel free to kind of raise your hand if you would like to answer. Answer. You can answer a question, but you can also ask questions. So let me kick it off. So for me, it all started with this book. This book was given to me by a friend, and she told me, "You're speaking like an Ayn Rand," and I didn't know who Ayn Rand was. I heard about her, but I didn't know who she was. I actually picked it up, and it's quite a thick book. So it took me several weeks to convince myself that I'm going to, you know, go through this journey of reading that thick book, but I did. And as I started to understand what this book is about, really, it resonated with me very deeply. In a way, it opened a window to a whole other way of thinking about life, thinking about myself, thinking about what am I doing here, what am I trying to achieve, and who is the, you know, the center of the universe? Is it me? Is it society? Is it my family? Is it other things? And very quickly, before even getting to the middle of the book, I realized that there's something deeper. So honestly, I didn't finish the book. I went and read a lot about the philosophy behind the book that I'm going to talk a little bit about today. And then I decided to finish the book after I was kind of, in a way, worthy of finishing it. And a spoiler for the ones who didn't read the book, there's a long speech at the end of it. And I knew it's coming, so I wanted to get ready for it. This is why I took the time to learn more about the philosophy before I moved forward with it. So again, this is where it all started. And if you didn't read that book, I really urge you to take the time to read it. It's going to take you some time, but if it resonates with you, it's really a start of a journey. So what I want to talk about is that before reading Atlas Shrugged, philosophy was this, you know, this is what I thought about, you know, Greek people in a toga when I thought about philosophy. It has nothing to do with my life. It's all cloud, you know, kind of out there in the clouds, thinking abstractly, asking, you know, philosophical questions. And I didn't see the connection between those, you know, philosophy as a science and my life. But I slowly realized that the way Ayn Rand is thinking about philosophy, or how to think about your life, is very different. It's very clear. It's very down to earth. It gives you clear guidance and explanation of how you should lead your life, and a whole different approach to the same type of science. And suddenly it all made sense to me. So I started looking at what philosophy is and what does it mean. And I was excited to learn that there's a real science occupied with answering the question is, how should Tal live his life to the best of his ability in the long or short time that he has to live, depending on how you look at it. So not only figuring out that Atlas is about a specific way of looking at life, but also that philosophy is the science that tries to answer the questions I had about how to live my life. Even questions I didn't know I should ask, and that's a big thing. So that is another thing. Another thing I want to say about it is that there are different ways to think about philosophy. If you think about the mystic philosophy, the religions, all the people, the philosophies that ask you to believe, have faith in something above this reality, Ayn Rand calls living not on earth, meaning it's maybe you'll have a good life when you die and you go to heaven. There are other subjective philosophies that are, not about me, not about how I should live my life. So Ayn Rand kind of categorized them as philosophies of not living on earth. And then what I found to be true is the objectivist philosophy is the one that really teaches you how to live qua a living person, a human being on this earth, not in a different dimension or a different life. And that was very illuminating to me. So what is philosophy? Philosophy is basically trying to understand the relationship between reality, the things out there, and this thing, my consciousness, me, this thing in my skull and my body that is me, trying to understand what's going on and how this thing should live in this world. And so if you boil it down, it's the relationship between consciousness and reality. And if you think about it, there are some axioms that you have to start with, and Ayn Rand calls it the base of knowledge, or any statement pertaining to knowledge. And she identifies the axioms that are really in the base of our knowledge. Talking that long is new to me, so I'll have to stop from time to time to clear my throat. Anyway, so I want to read to you what an axiom is, because you should not take anything on faith, and there are some axioms that are the base of everything that I'm talking about, so I want to clarify it. So an axiom is a proposition that defeats its opponents by the fact that they have to accept it in the process of any attempt to deny it. That's from Atlas Shrugged in Galt's speech. And that is the definition of an axiom. You cannot disprove it, because anytime you try to disprove it, you use it. So there's basically one fundamental axiom, which is existence exists. Like if you want to argue with me that we're not here talking, or there's no reality out there and it's all a big dream, we cannot even start a discussion. But if you accept that there's a reality out there and it's real and it's there, and you can touch the computer and the window and the table and everything around you, then we can start discussing it. And in a way, there are two corollaries, axioms, that are based on that. Something exists, so we're seeing something. So there's an identity of something that we can perceive. And there's something or someone who's perceiving it. So I'm here and I have consciousness. So existence exists and I have a consciousness. So those are the only axioms I will ask you to accept before I dive into other ideas or other concepts. So in a way, philosophy is dealing with 5 branches. On the bottom left-hand side is metaphysics, which is where are we? What is the nature of reality? On the right-hand side is epistemology, which is how do we know what, kind of the science of knowledge. And then if you have a good understanding of reality and our consciousness and how our consciousness relates to reality or knows reality, then you can start thinking about, okay, so how should I act? How should I live my life as a human being? And that's the realm of ethics. And then if you ask yourself, how should we live in a society? That's the realm of politics. Or how should we enjoy art and to fuel our consciousness with motivation to living on earth? This is the realm of study of the arts, which is aesthetics. So that's a kind of a short overview. What I want to focus on is morality. It's ethics. It's how to live your life. What is good and what is bad? What is right for you? What is wrong for you? And it was the first time that when I read Atlas, I realized that what Ayn Rand is saying is that what is right for you is what promotes your life. What is wrong for you is actually not just wrong, but dangerous to your life, because what is the standard? And the standard for everything that is good about life and everything that is bad or wrong things you can do is your life. And that was a revelation to me when I read it. It's like, wow. What it means that everything that prolongs my life, makes it happier and richer, is good for me, and everything else is bad. So that's, a very interesting concept where there's a definition of a standard. Right now, I can ask myself, okay, is going to the soccer game on Saturday instead of doing my, what I need to do at work, is that good for me or bad for me? And suddenly I can have a standard. It's like, what does it do to my life? Does it promote it? What am I getting? What am I losing? And having that standard was a big revelation to me. So that's how I think about it today. Is it good or bad for my life? And there's a definition. All that which is proper to life of a rational being is the good. All that which destroys it is the evil. So again, that was a really powerful quote for me. So how do we know what is good and what is bad for us? How do we choose every day? We're making thousands of decisions every day. What to eat in the morning, when to wake up, what to do, how to spend our time, what to focus on, what not to focus on, who to deal with, who not to deal with, what to buy, what not to buy. You're making a decision every minute. And I hope that you're interested in the idea of making the good decisions, or decisions that promote your life. So that is how I think about it. Now, again, you can say my standard is I can take it on faith. Whatever God is saying is the good. You can say whatever society says is the good is the good. What's good for the largest number of people is what is good. You can just say, I don't know, who knows? It's subjective. Everyone defines their own good. One person, if they want to, do drugs, it's good for them. Who's to say if it's good or bad? And again, what this lady has done for me is said, no, why do we in science and in math accept black and white, that two and two is always 4? You cannot argue about the fact that it's objectively 4 every time you count it. But in the realm of morality, it's all subjective. Everybody gets to decide whatever, the truth is to them. So Ayn Rand, in a very systematic, non-contradictory way, started understanding and solving this riddle of what is good for a human being. And I, as an engineer, found it amazing to see that someone can think in such abstract level and think about things that seem to have no relationship with a kind of a scientific method of starting with observation and then integrating it into a hypothesis and then proving it to be non-contradictory, and apply that to the realm of philosophy. She has done that. So her name for the philosophy is objectivism. Is it objectively true? You can look at reality and see it as it is and infer from it, what it is, what is the nature of our consciousness, and then from there, ethics, which is should we live our life. So I want to just focus on this realm of how should we live our life. And apologies to the people that have seen those couple of slides. I ask, if a squirrel, now let's say it's an adult squirrel, you drop it in the forest, will it know what to do? And my answer is, of course, they'll know what to do. They're programmed to go find a nut, bury it in the dirt, find a hole in a tree, find someone to mate with, and they're in a way programmed to live their lives. And they're programmed to sustain their lives, meaning if they see a predator or a hawk or something, they know to identify them. They know how to run really quickly. By the way, that's a mechanism we have as well, but they have it all the way. You don't need to teach a squirrel how to live. You don't need a school for squirrels. And the question, what happens to this thing when you drop it in the forest, right? Does it know how to live? And of course, the answer is no, it doesn't know how to live. And then the question becomes, okay, so how do we learn? How do we define our own how to guide, our user manual for life that defines how this human being needs to live well, and thrive? The squirrel, if they make the right decisions and they don't, cross a road and hit by a car, they're going to thrive and live a happy squirrel life. The question is, how do we do it as human beings? So what I've learned is that what's unique about us is that we think, we conceptualize, we take things and abstract the world around us with words and concepts. And we can do amazing things by understanding reality at a whole different level than a squirrel. So there are basically three levels that philosophy talks about: the sensory level, where you touch me, I can feel it. That's sense, or I can see the light hitting my eyes, and I can feel things around me. I can hear things and taste things. That's sensory level. There's perceptual level, which a dog, for instance, sees its owner and wags the tail because there's a percept saying that's something I recognize. And the human thing about us that we have a third level that no other organism has, which is our conceptual level, our ability to say things like, this is a bottle. They look very different. They're in different colors, different shapes, and no other dog or cat or whatever will realize that those are, in a way, the same concept. So our ability to say, this is a bottle that holds liquids. Those are different pieces of furniture, and you can go as abstract as you want. The solar system. This is our unique ability, and this is what defines us as human beings. And if you understand this mechanism that makes us human, and you really understand what are the prerequisites and the way it functions, you really understand how to live. So just to make a long story short, reason is our ability to survive, or a means of survival, as Ayn Rand says. It's the essential characteristics, our rational faculty, and basic means of survival. So everything that I'm going to talk about is based on this premise that if we understand how we survive, how we think, how we should live our lives using this rational faculty, and understanding how that rational faculty is the way we collect our nuts, as a squirrel. If we, do what we are designed to do well and interact with reality using our faculty, we're going to thrive. So if you're really interested into, diving into what does it mean to live a better life and to pursue your happiness and kind of break it down to pieces, this is what I have to offer you today. So a little, very simple question: what is the meaning of life, right? Everybody thinks about that question. And for me, it's a question that you can answer objectively, scientifically. And that's what, I set for myself when I started the journey of diving into philosophy and objectivism in particular to make my life a better life. So we all want to live a better life. And when I ask people in my talks, so what is life about? The word happiness comes, one of the first answers. And it is about happiness. The goal of morality, the goal of ethics is to be happy. And I think one of the most important things to have are definitions. What is happiness? Before I can attain something or pursue something, I need to know exactly what it is. So I find this definition right on the money. Happiness is the state of consciousness which proceeds from the achievement of one's values. It really has everything in it. So I broke it down. By the way, I'm going to make several movie recommendations. So if you haven't seen Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, please do. It's a wonderful, inspiring movie. I'm going to make a couple of more later on. So what do we have here? We talk about having values. So we need to have values. Then we need to try to achieve them. So there's the process of trying to achieve those values. And the result of that process is a state of consciousness, a long-term state of consciousness that says, I'm a happy person. It's not about momentary pleasure or having fun with friends. Right now, it's a state of mind, a prolonged state of mind that says, I am pursuing my values. I know what they are. And the outcome is the state of consciousness. When I wake up in the morning, I'm saying, life is pretty good. My life is going well. But let's go deeper. So what are values? Again, a definition. Value is that which one acts to gain or keep. So it's me, it's one, it's not a collective. It's what my values are about. I need to act to do it. It's not just pontificating and thinking about what I should do, but actually figuring out what I want to do and act towards achieving it. And those values can be gaining something new, like buying a house, or keeping, like keeping myself alive, or eating, breathing, drinking. So I'm just keeping my value that I already attained. So again, very clarifying. I'm an engineer, so I love definitions. I love clarity. So this is why those definitions are very important. So what does it mean? It means that I need to discover my values. I don't know what they are by default. Everybody needs to discover them. And this is what I'm going to talk about next. And then I need to act to achieve them. And if I'm somewhat successful, then slowly I will gain this state of consciousness called happiness. So I broke it down. Okay, first step, discover your values. What are they? How do I do it? So then Ayn Rand has another beautiful concept called a central purpose. So you know how we have mission statements for companies, and say the company is gonna do 1, 2, 3. It's gonna make software designed to help project managers manage their projects in a better way, and that's all that company is going to do. It's going to be the best software company for project management, and it's not going to do the endless other things in the world. It's just going to focus on that. That mission statement is very clarifying. This is what we are about, and we're not about nothing else other than this. And the question is, why don't we have that mission statement for us? Can we know ourselves well enough to define what my purpose is? What is it that I want to achieve? And so I find it almost a prerequisite for happiness to define your central purpose. And again, Dr. Leonard Peikoff in his book, Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand, defines a central purpose. And it says, a central purpose is the long-range goal that constitutes the primary claimant of a man's time, energy, and resources. And when I read it, it's like, wow, that means that this one thing, this central purpose of my life, is going to take most of my time, most of my energy, most of my resources. So it better be good. And more than this, it not just better be good, it's better be good for me. I need to figure out what is the thing that I love doing, I want to do, because it's going to take most of my time. And unfortunately, a lot of people that I know don't think about their life this way. It's like, no, life is about, working and making money so you can spend some time in the weekend doing what you love. So in a way, they're not spending most of their time, their energy and resources on a central purpose. Maybe they do what they love on the weekend, so they spend a little bit of time, a little bit of resources, a little bit of energy doing what they really love, and spend most of their time doing things they don't love. And that, I think, is a waste. So it really hit me when I read this to really rethink my days and my weeks and my months and my years, and thinking, am I clear about what my central purpose is, and am I spending enough time and energy on that? And then the next step was to identify that the central purpose is around productive work. It's not about, I love playing the drums, but I, decided at 17, I'm not going to be a professional drummer, right? So it cannot be my central purpose because that is what I do for recreation and, have some fun playing with music. But it needs to be about something productive, something where I, exercise my conceptual faculty to create something. That's what we do. If squirrels collect nuts and live in a hole in a tree, what we do is we produce. We have ideas in our mind of what we want, and then we go and make it happen. So productive work, as Ayn Rand says, it is the central purpose of a rational man's life, the central value that integrates and determines the hierarchy of all of his other values. So not only it's something that I need to pursue, it really defines the hierarchy of all of the other values. Meaning, if that's what I want to do as a human being, it really defines how I should spend my resources and invest in other things I want to invest in to be able to pursue that central purpose. And she also says reason is the source, the precondition of his productive work, pride is the result. So what you get out is not just happiness, but this pride that you're committed to doing the right thing. So again, that's very clarifying. So it's not about the time you sleep. It's not the time where you're having fun and you're kind of forming social relationships and recreation. It's about the part of the day, the part of your life, which is around productive work. So when I'm going to talk about a central purpose and how to be happy, I'm going to talk about creative work. Not that it's not important to create the right type of relationships, but this is where the seed is. This is where the root is. Another recommendation, if you think about productive work and a man exercising his conceptual faculty and intellect to solve problems. Martian, I love that movie to see how a human being, deals with forces of nature in order to get back home. Another great movie. So how did I break it down for myself? And this is where it's becoming a little bit more practical. So first, and like a good scientist, it all starts with observation. You might think you know yourself, you might think you know what you love, but I would say it's a never-ending process. And if you're young, by the way, you need to start that process of really trying to figure out what it is that thing that is you loves about this reality. So it starts with observation. Just observe yourself living, observe yourself reacting to reality, to things that happen to you, and then slowly identify what it is that you value. And I'm going to break it down, that process, into concretes. The third step is really define from all of the things that you see around you the central purpose that defines your most of your life, and then go and make money so you're able to live off of it and to make a good life for yourself. So I want to kind of break it down a little bit further. So when you're observing yourself, you're actually observing the values. You identify the core values, then you define a central purpose, and you productize yourself. That's in a way how you make money. You make what you contribute to this world, something monetizable. So there was a question that was raised. Let me see if I can allow you to ask the question. Let me see. Okay, so I don't see that the hand is on anymore. So I'll just continue. And if you have a question, just let me know. Okay, so let's dive into what it means to kind of do all of those 4 stages. How do we observe our values? So what worked really well for me is to take the evening, late afternoon or evening before you go to sleep, and write a journal. And I would open my notebook, a diary, and I would write 3 things that happened, good things that happened today. And I would write it in kind of full sentences. I did this thing today. It was really good for me. And more importantly, I would write beneath that point, what does it mean to me? Why did I like it? What was good about it? So let me give you several examples. And by the way, I didn't type it into a computer. I wrote it with my hand, because I find that writing on paper slows down my mind and allows me to think more clearly. So that's just a technique I recommend. Might not work for you, but worked really well for me. So I'll give you an example. So I won a business of a big company with my software company, and I thought it was about the money. We closed a big deal. But when I sat down and said, that was a really good thing that happened today, what does it mean to me? I realized that what was so great about this win is that I got to stand up and present a narrative that I wrote, and then we won against another company. And I realized that the value in all of it was the fact that I love presenting. I love, telling stories. I love speaking. And that was what was so wonderful about this experience. Another one is I wanted to hire some great people that I was, in a way, competing to recruit with other alternatives that they had. So I sat down and I built a whole story about why they should be working for my company other than going working for other bigger companies that might offer them more money or more compensation. And I created this whole narrative about why our company is so great and where it's going to be in 5 years. And I actually recruited the two people that I wanted to recruit. So I was very happy about it. But when I asked myself, what does it mean to me? Why is it something I love? I realized it's because I love writing stories and I love making up narratives. And one day I drove a car on a racetrack and I really, really enjoyed it. And I asked myself, why do I love it? Why do I love racing cars? I can just keep it as like, yeah, I love cars, let's move on. But really digging deep into why I love this, I really love to master techniques. So I realized that that's what I love about cars, but this is exactly what I love about drumming. This is what I love about playing tennis. Just the process of improving myself, learning how to be better and better at the same exact thing. So this is why I enjoy lapping the racetrack and doing qualifying and measuring the time around the track rather than racing other people. So I get very specific about what I love. This is why instead of driving Ferraris, which I did and it cost me a lot of money, I decided to race those cars, which are much, much cheaper, but much more fun to drive. So cost me less, and I got extracted way more happiness by driving this little cheap car called a Mazda MX-5 than driving a Ferrari. What it is all about is developing a muscle that I call becoming a valuer. Today, I can walk around and I can tell you exactly what I love and why. And the question is, can you say exactly what you love about life? Who do you love and why? What is it about you that loves and value that object or that person or whatever it is, or that kind of work? So this is the happiness muscle for me. This is what allows you to say, those are the things I really want. And I know exactly why. And I know that I'm going to pursue and I'm going to try to achieve the right values for me as a human being. So that, again, is for me as a prerequisite. The second step was to slowly realize that I do have core values. There are some things that I love more about life. And if you do that diary exercise long enough, you will find amazing things, which is they all are kind of pointing to the same direction. I'm about communication. I'm about teaching. I'm about sharing ideas. I'm about philosophy. I love creating stories. I'm about writing. And slowly, all of the arrows will be pointing in the same direction, allowing you to integrate everything into what I call a central purpose. And after you have enough evidence and you've thought about it enough, you can start consolidating all of it to a central purpose and to something that defines your life. So I want to share my central purpose as I understand it right now in my stage in my life. It's about philosophy. I love ideas. I love principles of how to live. I love education. I love speaking. I love interacting with people and teaching and sharing my experience. I love seeing the response that comes back and the energy that comes back from the people I interact with. And I love managing, by the way. I love managing people in the educational realm. This is why, being at the Ayn Rand Institute is so inspiring to me. And another thing I realized about myself, I really like to sit down and write. And I actually tried to create a mission statement for Tal. So it was make philosophy accessible, understandable, and actionable through teaching, writing, and consulting. And that's what I wrote as my mission statement. And if I read this right now, as I read this, mission statement of my life, I get excited and energized. So this is what I did. By the way, immediately after I realized this is what I want to do, I took several decisions about my life and what I'm going to do moving forward. I was in technology and decided to move on to do other things that have to do more with philosophy, more with education, more with writing. So about philosophy, I just decided I'm going to invest more time and read about philosophy and understand philosophy. But if you haven't read what Ayn Rand has to offer, I think it's the best philosophy you can read. So I read everything I could get my hands on. as far as education, the first thing I did is like, yes, I want to create a school. So I started creating this project. The code name for the project was the Hero Incubator. But later I realized that it's not what I really want to do. I want to just be involved in education. So there were several outlets, including managing ARI and including investing in other educational companies that can do this thing better than just starting a school. And the other thing I did is I wrote my own book. I really felt a desire to share my ideas, and this is what I've done. I wrote a children's book. You can buy it on Amazon. It's really my attempt to share those ideas with my kids, because those are abstract ideas, but I think we can teach kids from their early teens how to live life and how to think about life and what is true and what is not true. If you write enough, you understand that you have to show, not tell. So in early ages, you try to, show a hero rather than say, this is how you should live your life. So Sophie is that hero that I try to create. The last thing I want to talk about, which I didn't go into in my lecture, so if you've heard it before, this is going to be new, is how to really make money out of all of this and how to have someone pay you to do what it is that you want to do. I call it productizing yourself. So we can spend an hour talking about how to go about the process of figuring out exactly which role in which company, starting your own company versus working for a company, in which specific domain. But I tried to kind of summarize several principles that I've used. One is, if you don't know what it is that you really want to do, and if you're young and you don't have enough experience or evidence of knowing exactly what you want to do, you just start with something you think you'll love, and you iterate. You say, I don't know, I love being around people, so maybe I'll go work in, I don't know, a fast food joint and see a lot of people around me all day. It's going to be fun being around people. And then you start working in a McDonald's or something, and you realize that you really love the interaction, but you don't like the food stuff. And you say, okay, the next thing I want to do is to be around a lot of people, but do something very specific that is not around, taking orders and working with food and making hamburgers all day. So you iterate to something that you love more, or you identify that this is the aspect of what I like about being around people. Maybe you like a different kind of interaction rather than people giving the orders of what they want to eat. But you get the principle. The principle is you start with something you like or you think you love, and you just learn and iterate. And the most important thing is to continuously learn and introspect. And that is the most important thing, is go back home and ask yourself in the end of the week, and the end of the day, even at the end of the month, what was good about this week? What was good about today? What did I like? Why did I like it? And then slowly get to conclusions and then decisions, how to iterate to something you like more. And what I cannot stress enough, so this is why I put it in the power of 10, is that you have to clarify exactly what you love and specify those aspects of what you love into that kind of mission statement that I showed you about myself. So you're trying to always learn, introspect for the goal of clarifying and specifying your values. And the more specific it is, the better. You can say, I like a specific type of what if what you love cannot make you any money? I'll answer that question a little later. I would love to hear why you cannot make money out of it. And I have some book recommendations of how to figure out how to make money from whatever you like doing, because whatever you like doing, if it's productive, somebody will value it as well. So we'll talk about that. And then you learn and you practice, and you learn more about what I mean by learn in this context, and you learn about the specific domain that you decided is what your central purpose is. Be the best in the world in, being a photographer of gorillas. Okay, if that's what you love about life, which is photographing gorillas, you just be the best gorilla photographer in the world, and you need to make, National Geographic hire you, because you have more knowledge and more understanding and more practice than anyone else. And then I can go on and on about how to do that. And you really need to be bold about your increasing value and demand compensation. Some people, I think maybe some of the questions like, what if I can make money? You can. The question is, can you get good enough and valuable enough to other people and ask for money? And you need to value yourself and value your work enough to demand it, to say, I'm doing this consultation. I did it for free up until now, but now I'm good enough and I think I'm bringing enough value. So next time it's going to be a paid engagement. But again, I can open it to questions because I know that there's a lot that goes into specifically how to monetize yourself. And I would say another thing is always act. Don't get too hung up on what should I do and thinking for weeks and weeks and months, contemplating if that is the right move or that is the right move. Sometimes just throwing yourself on things that you have enough information to, to say that it's something that's a good enough alternative. Just go and try it, because acting in reality gives you so much feedback, so much information about what is good about something or what's not good. So if you're not sure, but you have a good alternative, take the best one and act on it, because you'll gain so much. Even if you fail, even if it doesn't work, you learn from it, and it allows you to specify what you don't like, which is in a way contributing to the process of knowing what it is exactly you do love. And I like this one, which is action may result in mistakes that set you back a little bit, but inaction will really bring you down. I think a lot of, the reasons for a lot of depression and a lot of confusion in young people's mind is just that they don't act enough and don't engage enough and sit at home and, just imagine what would happen if they started their own company. Start your own company, try, fail, go bankrupt, go back home. Go work in the McDonald's again, make some money so you can rent a place again and try it again. This is a much better life than sitting in your sofa and thinking about life. So for me, the answer of what is the meaning of life, and this is where I kind of close the circle, is really pursuing your rational values. Meaning, rational means I know exactly, and there's a good proof that I'm right about what my values are. And I've thought a lot about, and I proved to myself that those are the values that I'm going to seek. And of course, we can talk about other values like relationships and finding your love and so on, but I want to focus on that productive aspect of your life. So understanding why you love those values is the meaning of life, and pursuing them. I think this is the genius of Thomas Jefferson, is that this is what it is. Life is about pursuit of happiness, but a rational pursuit of happiness. And this is what Ayn Rand, taught me. Now, a last thing I would talk about is the resistance that comes from your mind when you're trying to do different things. I won't go into, in depth about it, but there are feelings in our that are evoked that sometimes, in a way, stop us. Or slow us down or confuse us around what it is that we need to be doing. And again, I won't go deep into that, but philosophy has a lot to say about that. Feelings. What are those feelings? Where do they come from? How do I deal with feelings? So the most amazing things I've learned is how to deal with my feelings and to understand where they're coming from. And the first step was to understand that feelings are effects. They're not the cause. I should not be dealing with the emotion. I should not be discussing the emotion. I should try to see what's behind the emotion. What is that thing called a value judgment that my subconscious is valuing, judging, that evokes that emotion? And one of the best things I've learned about emotion is that you can actually make them speak. You can ask, why am I feeling anxious? What is that emotion telling me? And anxiety is that emotion that tells you there's something out there that is threatening you and you're concerned about, and you don't know how to deal with it. This is why it's anxiety and not fear. Because if I know exactly what's threatening me, I can, maybe feel some fear. But anxiety is like, it's the fear of maybe of the unknown, what's going to happen. And your mind, your subconscious, being a little bit of a squirrel mind, is trying to protect you. So by that, it says anxiety. And if you give into the anxiety, you might not start your own business because say, oh, it's too much risk. What am I doing? You know, it's gonna, what if I fail? Everybody, you know, will hate me. Maybe I have other commitments and I'm gonna lose all my money, and how will my life be, and so on and so forth. The way to solve it is to understand that anxiety comes from some kind of self-talk that is happening in your subconscious that says, this option of opening your own company is risky to you, be careful. And the way to solve it is, my technique around that is just to talk to myself. It sounds weird, but if you talk to yourself and say, okay, Tal, why are you feeling anxious about this decision? What is it about it that scares you or you think is threatening? And then I let my subconscious kind of talk. It's like, yeah, you know, what will happen if we fail? We lose a lot of money, you know, maybe credibility, and I'm not sure I have what it takes to succeed. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know that person I'm going to work with. Maybe they'll turn out to be a jerk. You know, what will happen? So I respond to myself like, I think you're right. There's a lot of truth in what you're saying. You know, maybe it will be risky, but have you thought about what the opportunities are? Maybe, you know, we can really hit it and succeed big time, and maybe even become rich one day, and sell the company and have a lot of pride. What will happen if that will materialize? You know, as far as I know how to do those things. Have you thought about the fact that we proved to ourselves, you, my subconscious and I, in the last 15, 20 years, that we can actually manage ourselves. We're responsible. We're not whimsical, and we can, in a way, you know, trust ourselves to make the right decision. So what do you say? Maybe we give it a chance. And if you do that for a prolonged, you know, long period of time, talking to yourself, you'll see that the anxiety goes away. It's amazing. And I get more clarity because my subconscious slowly interacts with me better, and I'm with the self-talk, I can clarify what it is that I'm scared about or concerned about or anxious about. So this is my way of dealing with feelings. And I love this quote from Barbara Sher that says, it is not laziness that stops you from pursuing your goals. It's mainly inner conflict. I think it's completely true. Another thing that worked really well for me is to do a list of what other people expect from me that is not me. And see that there are a lot of things that I think I should be doing that it's not really me thinking it should be doing. It's other people thinking that I should do. And I actually don't know if they actually think that I should do it. It's I think that they think that you know, that I should do it. So what you'll find if you make that list of what your mother and father, what your friends, what your community, what your country expects from you, is that a lot of what you have as resistance in your subconscious is just, you know, opinions from the past or irrelevant things. And if you think a lot about where it's coming from and who is, you know, expecting you to do things, it really takes the emotional power of those feelings and slowly winds them down to the point where you're free and more available to do the things you really want to do. So what do I recommend to do next? Follow what, you know, if that makes sense to you, follow some of what I've recommended. I do recommend reading Atlas and The Fountainhead, the novels, the fiction that Ayn Rand wrote. They were both very inspiring to me. The Fountainhead actually is something I use almost on a daily basis, asking myself, what would Howard Rourke do? And then everything becomes clear, because I'm not Howard Rourke, but I know how to kind of recruit all of the good in being a self-made person and be true to myself and knowing what's the right thing to do. And also so much value in reading The Virtue of Selfishness as far as what is the ethical foundation for everything that I was talking about. How to Enjoy an Art is the Romantic Manifesto. And if you want to go deeper into the whole integrated philosophy, you can read Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, which is the foundation of knowledge, but also other books like Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand by Leonard Peikoff, and so on. I want to give some credit to Jane Moroney, who has taught me a lot in that process. She has a website called thinkingdirections.com that I urge you to try. She has a wonderful thing called the Thinking Lab. And I just would, before I open it up, I just say you have one life and it's short. It goes by really, really fast. And time is limited. So I would urge you to act fast and try to get on a journey towards your happiness. And my last recommendation is, if you haven't seen that movie called Whiplash, go watch it. That, it resonated so much with me, because that was me in the age of 16 and 17, playing like 6-7 hours on a daily basis. Actually, my hands were bleeding like this actor here. And it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. So go pursue, and I'm going to open up for questions. We'll try to figure out, so I have a couple of written questions. Okay, why does it matter to become the best compared to others? I want to just correct myself if I said something that I didn't intend to. You don't need to compare yourself to others. By be the best in the world, I mean the best you can be in the world. The best you can be. I will never play tennis like Roger Federer. I can never, I should never aspire, because I'm not a professional tennis player. But know who am I, what's good about me, and how to be the best I can be, how to learn more, and, just be the best I could be. Let's see if there are other questions here. Any other questions from the participants? You can raise your hand if you want to ask another question. Oh, there's some thank yous in Hebrew. That's great. Do you think it is important to look at the future and what kind of career it will involve in the process of thinking of one purpose, especially now with AI? That's a great question. I think you should be looking at the future and seeing from a monetization perspective, from how you're going to make money, to say, if I'm going to be a carpenter and I want to make my own tables, what does it mean for my ability to make money? What is the size of this custom-made table industry in my environment, the one that is relevant to me? So I do think thinking rationally about your career is to think about how it's going to evolve over time. I have a very specific view on AI. I think there's a lot of alarmism, I would call it, around AI, that it's going to take over and the robots will be doing anything. It's going to take a long time. And it's going to be very obvious after they start washing the floors and cleaning our houses and doing our, laundry, that what will be the next thing to do. The same as I'm sure that when the car was introduced, all of the people that were around transportation at that time figured out really quickly what to do. So I don't think AI should be top of mind all the time. What's going to happen with AI? Because AI is such a broad term, and I don't think there's a lot of intelligence in artificial intelligence. There's a lot of computers doing better and better things. Okay, so another hand raised. Let me see. Yes, so Mauricio, I'm going to allow you to talk, and let's see if you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Mauricio, so I don't know if you can unmute yourself. Now you can talk, by the way. Mauricio, you there? Nope, I guess not. Ricardo. I don't know if you can unmute yourself. Ricardo, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. How will you go about hiring people to your company who have a similar worldview than yours? My question is very specific because I know people who are competent in what they do, but they're borderline communists.
So I can share with you that when I moved to the Silicon Valley, I was hiring a lot of people, and a lot of them were kind of radical left. So first and foremost, I'm hiring people that I need to work with and I can get along with. My criteria was reason. Can I reason with that person? Are they open to reason? Are they open to an argument? Or they're completely blocked and dogmatic? So I will answer. There are many other things that I'm trying to look for when I interview people about how good they are in what they say they're good at. And by that, I mean that I actually check if they're good at what they're doing. Like if they're a developer, I ask them to develop something for me. If they're a project manager, I want to see them managing a small project that I give them. But from that political aspect, I found it interesting because if there was something political and we argue about something, I use it as a way to check the rationality. Not where they are today, because I find a lot of people dogmatic on the right and a lot of people dogmatic that are capitalists, and they take things on faith. Why? Because maybe von Mises said so, right? I'm looking for thinking human beings, people that are in the pursuit of knowledge and they're honest about their desire to learn something. So sometimes I would actually use politics to argue with them and say, what do you think about this proposition that maybe we should look at the good as, I'm the standard of the good, because there's only me, right? There's no like a collective mind here. And, some people would say, no, I disagree. And this is why, and they would bring good arguments. And I said, and then I challenge them again. So if I see that they're open to reasoning, they can still be on the left and be totally subjective or whatever. And but I need to just make sure that I can work with them. Meaning, if they're obnoxious about being a Marxist, then maybe that goes into my evaluation. So I hope that answered your question, Ricardo. Okay. Any other questions? You can raise your hand or you can type in a question. So let me see. What was the book or concept of objectivism that caused a click, mind-blowing moment in your mind? Thank you for the webinar. Oh, wow. I think it was Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, where Ayn Rand is describing the process of how we form concepts. And in a way, that was the physics of what is human about me. How do I take, like I showed you the bottle example, right? By the way, maybe, yeah. I can stop sharing so you can see me. How do you form a concept of a bottle? And how does this mechanism work? And for me, that was like the bottom of the bottom proof, the ultimate proof of why this needs values, it needs freedom, it needs a specific method of how it works in reality. That was my kind of, I remember I was sitting in a window seat and I was reading Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, Concept Formation, and it just blew my mind. I was looking around to see if I did something embarrassing, like shouting out loud or something, but that was my kind of mind-blowing moment. Okay, so next one is by Ru Alberto. Do you know anyone who works with biomedical engineering with whom I can talk about the profession? I want to say something about this. Barbara Scher, that I've talked about, has a series of books of how to basically find a career out of what you love. And what she says there is that if you surround yourself with enough people, a community of 300 people basically can solve almost any problem. So what I would say, my answer is go and find someone in biomedical or find someone who knows something in biomedical and then get to know them, buy them coffee, go meet them and ask them if they know somebody else and maybe they're not working for the specific type of company that you're looking for. Start building a network and you'll be amazed what that network can do for you. Just amazed. If you open LinkedIn and say that is the perfect company I want to work for, and you'll find that if you have a big enough network, you know someone who knows someone who works for that company. And you can ask for an introduction, and people love sharing ideas, by the way. So, be bold, one of my recommendations, and ask people, call them up, text them. It's like, hey, this is Ruri, and I really love biomedical, and this friend told me you're working for that company. Will you be open for a little chat? you will see that most of the time you will get a yes, because people love sharing ideas. And the name was Barbara Sher, by the way, Peter. So Barbara, and Sher. She has several books about purpose and what I would do if I only knew what it was, and a parachute, I think, is another one, and so on. Great books. Okay, another one from Mayfair Peter. Thank you for the presentation. What do you think about the posture of pursuing what's meaningful instead of happiness? What's meaningful instead of happiness? I'm not sure I 100% understand the question. So Peter, sorry, Mayfair, I will try to find you in the participant list and allow you to speak. Here you are. So I don't know, Mayfair, if you can talk. Can you try?
I don't know if you're listening.
Yes,
there?
yes. So it's, yeah.
Great webinar. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My question is because there's a posture now that tells you not to be so obsessed in finding happiness because life is not fair and it's so difficult sometimes. So if you don't find happiness right away, or I'm standing in the point of view of runs where happiness is conscious. You know, it's not like something you find in a party, like you said. But since life is not fair and it's sometimes so difficult to keep in a state of happiness, even if you find your values, that if you were seeking meaningful things, it was so much better because once you have that goal, maybe if you're not so happy, it's going to be better. Have you heard something about this posture? I think Jordan Peterson has, he's a psychologist, and this is what his point is about life, not to pursue so much happiness, but a meaningful state of mind, you know?
Yeah, no, I know. Wow, this is a good question. So first I want to, say something that Ayn Rand said a lot, which is check your premise. And by that is there's an underlying assumption in your question. You said something like life is not fair. Why are you saying that? Because in a way it defines the question, right? So maybe the question is invalid because one of the premises of the question is invalid. I think life is very fair, right? Unless you're being coerced by someone else. Meaning if I was born to a very poor family, and I was not born into a wealthy family, on the contrary, we're pretty kind of, low mid class. Why is it unfair? It's just reality. It is what it is. Fair is you get what you deserve. And being born to a poor family is you get what you deserve or what your parents deserve because they've created so much wealth and so on. There's no fair or not fair from a reality perspective, like the world owes you something. So I first would say check your premises, because one of the things about learning philosophy is to go deeper and ask yourself, wow, this is really shaking the foundation of what I believe, including something that Rand says, be an egoist. Think about yourself. And then she explained why that doesn't contradict being a benevolent, people-loving person. I think on the contrary. So in a way, you should check your premises. And I think there is a problem, a lot of problems with what Jordan Peterson is saying, because he's coming from a different mindset of what morality is all about. It's about serving other people, being a good citizen, cleaning up your room for your mother, who won't have to be good for you to your wife. And I ask, why? Why should I be good to, why should I clean my room, by the way? If I don't have time, I'm late for work, I should not be cleaning my room. Why should I be nice to, to a friend who's not nice to me? Why should I be nice to my wife if she's not nice to me? Well, first, why is she my wife? And if she's my wife, I guess I hope she's there because I love her and I'm gaining a lot of value from. So I would ask you to read a little bit about the objectivist morality and maybe the virtue of selfishness, because I think there's a lot of assumptions in what you've asked. And a lot of the answers will be in reading Objectivist Ethics and other essays in that book. It's going to be a long answer, but I think life is about rational values that you choose for yourself, and finding meaning is, I think what Jordan Peterson means is something different. I think the meaning is finding meaning in the values that you choose for yourself rationally. So I don't think there's a contradiction between looking for meaning and looking for happiness. If you're looking for filling meaning with your life, is in a way the pursuit of happiness by pursuing the right values. So I hope I answered your question. Let's see if there are other questions. Yes, Yuan is asking, thank you very much, you're welcome. What motivates you to make such a webinar? Why is ARI interested in spreading their ideas? So this is my webinar. I decided to do it as for myself, kind of sharing. And the motivation is to explain to people that objectivism specifically and philosophy in general should be a thing that is relevant to your life. So Yuan, if you learned something from my presentation, it's all philosophy. It's just how to apply philosophy in your life. And this is what ARI is about, by the way. We're going to do more and more things as we go along. We're trying to spread our ideas through many different channels, including this one, and to share with the world that the set of ideas called objectivism is a guide for living on Earth. And I believe that if everybody followed the principles of objectivism, there would be much more fulfilled, happy people. Why do I do that? Because of me. Because I enjoy it, because I love it, and I don't think anyone should be promoting objectivism. No, some of them should be, building companies and doing whatever they like doing. I love spreading ideas. So I'm doing it for me. And you can see, while I'm pursuing my happiness, hopefully you're benefiting from that. So this is why we're doing it. ARI's mission, if you're asking about ARI as an organization, and the charter of ARI is to spread objectivism, is to do exactly what we're doing through many different educational activities, and hopefully this is one of them. Piotr is asking, at what age do you think young people are becoming ready to think about their central purpose? That's a great question. I believe that around the age of 15, 16, a person is almost completely mature as far as their ability to think, but they don't have enough evidence and track record to figure out exactly what they want to do. Now, they do have, let's say, 15, 16 years of experience, so they know what they're attracted to, but I would argue that they don't know enough in the realm of productiveness. They know a lot about what kind of sports they like, or like what kind of art they like, or what kind of subject in school they like. And they're starting to form ideas like, I heard about this thing called being a lawyer, and that sounds really interesting. So this is how I usually consult to my friends' kids when they ask me about what should I do. Do exactly what I said in the step number one: throw yourself at something that you think you'll love. If you think you love this idea of being in court because you've seen it on Netflix and it sounds really, really cool to speak in front of a jury and a judge and, be responsible for amazing cases, go do it. But before you commit to, 10 years of your life to become a really good lawyer, maybe talk to a lawyer, see what types of lawyers there are, and so on. Sorry, I need to mute some people here. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. And let me make sure that I mute the I think I just forgot to mute. Okay. Yeah, so I think we're good now. So going back to the lawyer, it's really a 16-year-old in my mind can start figuring out what type of lawyer they want to become, if it's really they want to be in court, or just be a lawyer that does, I don't know, real estate law or whatever it is. And they might find that they don't really like it. They thought they liked it because it was really cool on Netflix, but not really cool in real life. But they realized that what they loved about it is really being in front of people and talking. And then they said, maybe I can become a teacher, or something of the sort. So I think at the age of 15, 16, 17, they should be starting to think about what they want to do with their lives and how to start figuring out the direction. And then I would say don't go to college before you know what the direction is. And if you have no idea, ask yourself why. And I would say it's lack of introspection, it's lack of thinking and applying reason into that process. Let me see if there are any last questions before we finish this. So no, I think I've answered all the questions here. Yeah, a lot of people love the virtue of selfishness. That's great. So I just want to, end it here and say that I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. I'm going to continue to do many talks, and every time I think I can share some good ideas that I talk about and formulate in my head and can put it in a narrative like I did in this presentation, I will. So stay tuned. I'll put more webinars on my Facebook page, on ARI when it's time. And I hope to see you again soon. So thank you everyone for participating. Have a great rest of the day.